Wow. This was wild. Miami comes all the way back to win, and they are now 2-0. They outscore Baltimore 28-3 in the fourth quarter in Baltimore. They get a late touchdown to Jalen Waddle. Tua Tagovailoa's sixth touchdown pass of the day. Tua, how about this? 36 of 50, 469, 6 touchdowns and 2 picks. And Lamar Jackson may have even been better. He had over 300 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns in his own, and didn't make any mistakes. But somehow, some way, Miami comes roaring back. They get the win 42-38. All right, Trent Green was unbelievable on the call of this game, which was back and forth, up and down, part of our great CBS family of announcing and analysts. Trent, welcome aboard. Let's start with Miami and specifically with Tua, who had 6 touchdown passes, threw for 450-plus yards. I'm not going to ask you, did you see this coming? Did you see anything even close to this coming for Tua? Did you feel like he had the ability to kind of put something special together, or were you as surprised as we were?
Well, I think I'm surprised just because the way the game was going, the way that the Baltimore Ravens were controlling this game, both offensively and defensively. Tua had a couple of interceptions in the first half. They just weren't able to get anything going. They were down 28-7 at halftime. They came out in the third quarter. They traded touchdowns. So it was still a 21-point game entering the fourth quarter, and that's when things caught fire. Tyreek Hill actually left the game in the third quarter dealing with some cramping, went to the locker room. We're assuming he got an IV or some kind of fluid because he came back in the fourth quarter. As soon as he came back in the game, 2 long touchdown passes to Tyreek Hill as he had one-on-one matchups. They didn't defend that part of it very well. That got him right back in the mix. And then Jalen Waddle with the winning touchdown with 14 seconds to go in the end zone on Lamar Davis, the rookie cornerback. It was just a great comeback if you're the Miami Dolphins and just gut-wrenching if you're the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, Waddle and Tyreek Hill each had 11 catches. They each had between 170 and 200 yards receiving, and they each had 2 touchdowns. I mean, if they're going to catch 22 passes for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns a week, whatever they did, whatever they paid Tyreek Hill, whatever they get up for him, it certainly looks worth it. Meanwhile, Baltimore had the big lead, and Lamar Jackson was terrific today. But, when you look and you say, they don't have any running backs who catch passes. They didn't have any today. There are no dump-offs. They don't have that kind of run game, that thumper that can sort of grind that clock when they have a lead. Is that part of the problem in Baltimore, or was this just the defense didn't shut down the fish? I mean, how do you evaluate Baltimore's performance in that fourth quarter today?
Well, I think there were multiple things you can do. You can talk about 4-minute offense, right? No matter if it's the final 4 minutes or just the fact when you have a big lead in the fourth quarter, how do you drain that clock? How do you just milk things away and not allow the other team an opportunity to do it? Then there's miscommunication on the part of the secondary of the Baltimore Ravens, letting Tyreek Hill go clean down the field one-on-ones, but they thought they had safety helps. Both touchdowns, there was nobody within 5-10 yards of him when he caught those passes. And so that means there's communication issues. You could see after the second Tyreek Hill touchdown, they were all looking at each other, pointing fingers. Kyle Hamilton, Armour Davis, Williams, they were all looking at each other like, how in the world did that just happen? So communication issues, which we knew coming in were going to be a problem. Marcus Peters came back for the first time since he tore his ACL in preseason a year ago. So he hadn't played all year last year, hadn't played in week 1 this year. He was back, so they thought that would make a big difference. It did throughout most of the game, but then the communication issues towards the end are where the real problem happened for the Baltimore Ravens defense. Offensively, Lamar Jackson had over 100 yards rushing. Not only did he have a quarterback rating that was perfect at one point in time, I don't know if it finished with a perfect rating, but at one point in time, late in the fourth quarter, he had a perfect quarterback rating. So he did everything he could to get this thing done. It was just finding the time, finding the way to milk the clock so that the Dolphins never got back. But there were such quick strike plays by the Dolphins when they did get the ball back. That's what facilitated this whole thing.
Well, one more here on this one, and let's go back to Miami, who now is 2-0, and they've done it by sort of on defense shutting down New England, and then today just outscoring and out-track meeting the Baltimore offense. What's the ceiling? When you look ahead down the road, into the old crystal ball, what do you see as the ceiling for this Miami Dolphins team with a first-year coach?
Well, that's the thing. With the first-year coach, this is all kind of a learning curve, right? For everybody, they kept some of the defensive coaches over. Josh Boyer is still the defensive coordinator. Some of the defensive staff is still the same. But you've got a bunch of new coaches on the offensive side of the ball. You've got a lot of young players, new players. They brought in a number of free agents and trades, like we mentioned, in Tyreek Hill. But it's finding ways to attack teams, finding ways to win. Coaches talk about that all the time. How do you find a way to win in the fourth quarter? Miami was able to do that today. Next week, it does not get any easier. They host Buffalo at home. Buffalo's as good as anybody in the league. A lot of people think they're the top of the league in the AFC. So they've got another great challenge for themselves next week. But this Miami team is loaded. You look at the weapons they have on offense. We already talked about Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Mostert running the football did very well, I think, in the second half. He ran the football very hard. That opened up some things for Tua and what they were trying to do offensively. And then defensively, the first half, they weren't able to do anything against Lamar Jackson. Greg Roman had a great offensive game plan for the Baltimore Ravens. They were able to attack that cover zero. So much was said about last year's game and what they did to Lamar Jackson, what they did to the Baltimore offense with that cover zero, causing problems with pressure and blitzes and man coverage. They had a great attack for it. The problem is in the second half, they were, in the first half, they were 2 for 4 on third down. They finished the game 3 of 10 on third down. So the second half, they didn't convert any third downs. They didn't give themselves any room for air, and the defense for the Dolphins really stepped it up in the second half.
There you go. Very well done. Trent Green, thank you very much. You had a fun one this week. I hope everyone is this fun for you the rest of the way. That way we get to talk more often. Appreciate the time.
That would be great. That was a fun game. And, who knows? We're in Miami next week, so we've got the Bills and Dolphins, so we'll see what they bring.
Come on by. We have a great spread for you. After the game, come on by. Put your feet up. You can watch the late games with us. Oh, man, look at this. You want to throw 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, you make the list. Vincenzo Testaverde, who, by the way, if you see him, looks like he could still play right now. He's an incredible. He's like 6'5". He's still got the flowing hair. He's still like a 28-inch waist. Big shoulder. He's ready to go. Some guy named Joe Montana's on the list too. And then Kenny Stabler as an Oiler in 1980. Not silver and black. Oiler. Bum Phillips. We're going to kick the door down. Did it against the Jets. I don't know if that really even counts then.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.